We're live.
We are live. Okay.
I got to figure out where I lost my voice. It just must have dropped it somewhere.
Your voice. Oh, it's so bad that we're gonna do a rebroadcast show tomorrow.
They're gonna know. No,
Well,
I just got better.
No, it's not that. It's just that your voice is getting to the point where there's probably going to be that perfect voice soon.
Oh, just like that late night radio DJ.
Yeah, the Morgan Freeman voice is coming soon. And that's going to be missed. The world's going to miss your Morgan Freeman voice. And then that's is a precursor to no voice, but hopefully that won't go there.
Well, over the weekend, I could just scream my face off and we'll be good to go Monday.
Yeah, that works.
Oh, in time.
There we go. You're not going to get my dad joke. I had such a good dad joke. Oh, well, too bad. You'll have to wait till the Monday. All right, let's get into this thing. You got it?
Oh, yeah.
You've tuned in to COVID Marketing with Brent Kobayashi and Arthur Tutt, the show that supports small business not just to survive, but to thrive.
Yep, we are live with COVID Marketing episode number 94. We come to you week daily at 11:11 Eastern Standard Time. If you have any questions on the marketing or the business or the whatever, you let us know in the comments. And I am Brent Kobayashi, president of Kobayashi Zeitgeist here in Toronto, Canada. We're a marketing agency. And with me is Mr. Arthur Tutt, a marketing specialist at the marketing agency.
And hello. And if you like this show, remember to smash that like, share, and subscribe button. Hold on, I can do this. I can talk. So you never, ever miss a show.
Oh, geez, you're losing it. All right, so today we're going back into an old favorite. They all are old favorites, LinkedIn marketing.
And this is really going to be for business owners who are often asking, should we be advertising on Facebook or on LinkedIn? There seems to be a lot of confusion.
Yep. And probably for good reasons. I mean, Facebook and LinkedIn are two very, very, very different platforms. The audiences have two very different mind states, often, not always. But LinkedIn does have some pretty powerful marketing tools. So one thing, though, that's really super important is LinkedIn is not for everyone. So who is LinkedIn for?
Who is LinkedIn?
Yes. and I think it's I think the term is called not the faint of heart.
I was trying to go in there for dramatic effect and just like double your voice. Just like, who is LinkedIn for?
Okay. Awesome. You're going to be my echo. All right, go for it, Arthur.
So one of the big questions is, because LinkedIn is a little bit more specific and we're going to get into some of those specifics, but one thing to keep in mind with LinkedIn is it can be a little bit more pricey. It's a little bit more expensive put your ads there. And so I ran some numbers to get some real data on kind of what we're talking about here. And I'm going to talk about CPMs for a second, which is cost per 1,000 impressions. And that's just kind of a nerdy marketing way of saying, how much does it cost to show your ad to 1,000 people or 1,000 times, right?
Yeah.
And when I ran the number for Facebook, it was about $20 for 1,000 impressions.
Mm-hmm.
For LinkedIn, it's about $70 for 1,000 impressions. So that works out to be about 3.5 times more expensive to show your ad to the same number of people. But there's a big but here that I want to emphasize, which is, and it's something that sometimes marketers don't talk about, which is that it's not just the quantity of impressions that you get, but the quality is also very important here.
Yeah. So that's one thing that when you're doing, when you got into the digital age, people oftentimes divorced metrics from reality, meaning you kind of went from the whole old school of radio and TV, you can have 1,000 listeners, or print. Print was the big one. I've got a print magazine, and my subscription list, my viewer list on that, when I sell it to advertisers, is based on somebody looking at that magazine and your ad in that magazine at least 7 times or 12 times the number of people. So that's how they figure out distribution lists. So people really like numbers. And so sometimes when you're doing a campaign and you're a little bit more in the marketing mindset than necessarily you like results mindset, and you're trying to show results, that you might be like, oh, but with Facebook, I can give you 2,000 people eyeballs on you, but they're not necessarily 2,000 buying eyeballs.
Yeah, people like to obsess about the numbers, but sometimes there's more to the story than just the number itself, as in who is that eyeball?
Yeah, and of course with LinkedIn, it's all about, are you reaching that decision maker? Are you reaching somebody targeted for what you want? Are you reaching somebody on a platform where they're actually looking to do something that's related and they're expecting what you're about to offer? So, if you want a CEO or decision maker, who more and more, and it depends, are they going to find value in actually being on the platform? There's finding more and more value on the platform because it's becoming more of a social platform where you actually might spend some time to know about your industry or know about best practices for whatever it is you're doing and get the news from that place. Just like advertising on Forbes or Fortune 100 or the advertising on Forbes.com might get you a certain demographic. Social networks are trying to do the same thing. It's just content. It's just more user-generated content than necessarily editorial content, but you're trying to get people on there engaged. Therefore, you can actually sell advertising. If you've got a business that is a B2B business and your sales approach actually relies on decision makers, whether it's CEO or technical staff or anything to make that purchase, then start looking at LinkedIn. Now, I would actually go so far to say if your business is B2B, and we're talking about advertising in this sense from a social network, like the LinkedIn social network advertising. If your business is B2B, but your clients the business that your business is trying to connect with is also B2B, LinkedIn might be a really great place, especially because that B2B business might be on LinkedIn for the B2B opportunities. And then therefore it is an easier connection to see, oh, is this person actually going to be on here for social reasons or for, it's funny to think of say social reasons, but yes, for community, for information, for news, for conversation of what's going on in their industry. So that's where I would go to LinkedIn. Should
we put a little warning, a little disclaimer about LinkedIn?
Sure. What do you want to put there?
So I think it's something just to be important to be clear about is that while LinkedIn can be a very strong and powerful and the right platform and a better platform perhaps for your business for advertising, it is important to note and to stress that it can be a more expensive platform to advertise on. We already said it's about 3.5 times more expensive than Facebook for impressions. So it's not for the faint of heart. It is, like you said, more for B2B sales. And really, if you're looking for those multi-$1,000 product or service that you're looking to sell. So you're going to be looking at a longer sales cycle here.
Usually, yes, longer sales cycle, a larger sale, and maybe perhaps if you have a smaller budget, something where you actually really know what you want. Meaning with Facebook, it's a little bit easy to say, I'm going to just throw some money at it, and I'm going to now figure out from my results my targeting. With LinkedIn, it's a little bit more like if I want to target a specific job title, because I know that job title is going to convert into a conversation and then eventually a relationship and a sale, that's where LinkedIn can be actually pretty darn powerful. Mm-hmm. All right. So
Question number 2.
why use a lead gen campaign?
Why use a lead gen campaign? So I know I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it because it is that important. But if you're running a campaign and you're sending people to your website, so you're sending people off of the platform, it can be a very easy way to burn money. Not to say that you never do it. There could be times and situations where that is appropriate. But if your goal is to collect names, emails, and phone numbers of the people that you're trying to connect with and continue the relationship, the power of the lead gen form is that it loads instantly. It auto-populates with the person's information, and you then have a contact that you can continue with.
Oh, so yes. So the lead gen form is my favorite thing. You can do it on Google, if I recall now, right? You're saying you can do it on Google as well? Or is it YouTube?
So technically on Google search, you can, but it's more of an option.
Right. So with Google search, it's probably not that big a deal in the sense that on Google search, it might be a little bit more, but I imagine unless, the Google account is not necessarily the account that you want for that person. On LinkedIn and Facebook, both of these lead gen products that they've got, their advertising product is fantastic because this is actually what you want. And it's easy. You might think, oh, it's just as easy to fill out a form on my website. Well, no, you're talking about trying to reach, hundreds, thousands of people who are now going to convert to, maybe they're going to give you their information, to now they're going to give you the information or not. When it's auto-populated like this, it is so, like, the person's like, I'm kind of interested in it. Oh yeah, I am interested in it. And then I'll hit submit.
Yep.
Like, it's such a quick thing. Not, I'm kind of interested in it. It went to the website. Was this really what I wanted? Oh, I'm out.
Yep.
I'm gone.
And
Very,
so
very different.
One big difference here then between Facebook and LinkedIn, and why LinkedIn is powerful, is because when people create their profiles, typically on Facebook, people are going to be using their personal email. And I know for me,
from a million years ago,
I used an old email that I don't even check anymore. And even though I've tried to update it, Facebook still has that in its system. With LinkedIn, people more often use their business email when they're signing up. And so just to give an example here, I've worked with a client. They're a SaaS company, and they work specifically with accountants. So they're trying to reach accountants, accounting agencies, practice managers. And we tried both Facebook and LinkedIn, and they both delivered results in terms of they both produced leads. But on Facebook, they typically got more, a lot more, excuse me, losing my voice here.
Go for it.
A lot more personal emails that weren't always as, you do some research on the person, and sometimes it's like, does this person even exist? But then we started doing it on LinkedIn, and then they started getting like professional emails, as in like, John Smith at accountingagency.co.uk, right? So instead of just a Gmail or a Hotmail, it was actually a business professional email that they were receiving. And the person's name and credentials would say like that they were an accountant. So they were actually reaching the right person. And so that's where LinkedIn was very powerful for them.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about this, and this is why most of the stuff that we do when we talk about these things this is where you want to start, but don't just say no to the rest of everything else, because really you just want to start where you think you're going to get the most traction and then expand out. Because what we also found is the opposite. Like when we wanted to get the personal addresses of a professional for one of the campaigns that we were running, Facebook was way better. In other words, it was easy to get the general address for, the address that actually has gatekeepers behind it on LinkedIn. That was more likely to happen. Whereas on Facebook, you're more likely to get actually the personal contact information. For that particular campaign, that was what shifted we want to actually do it that way. Where you start very often in marketing is not where you're going to end. It is not like, hey, let's plan out our thing for the next year. You start somewhere that makes sense. And we've kind of gone through a few of the reasons why you might want to choose LinkedIn. We'll summarize at the end. But you do want to be looking in the other places, including B2B with Facebook. 100% there, 100%. All right. So now, Arthur, what are the best ways to find our audience?
Well, I was going to say on that note as well, I think it's important to really test both platforms and to find out what actually works for you.
Yeah.
Because what was really interesting in that example is we thought LinkedIn would be the better option because it was more B2B. And then we tested Facebook and we're like, this is better. And not just a little bit better, it was 10 times more cost effective.
Yeah. Not 3 times, not 3.5 times, 10 times. It was pretty big. All right. So yes, what are the best ways to find the audience?
Let's just say you want to jump into setting up a little demo of a lead gen campaign. We can talk about audiences in there.
All right. Let's get a little nitty gritty here.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Let's jump into it. You guys can see this?
Yep.
All right, so we are in the KZ LinkedIn Ad Manager. So let's just go to create a campaign. And so thing to keep in mind, the campaign manager, it's free to set up an account here. So anybody can set up an account. You just pay when you start showing ads. So from here to create a new account or a new campaign, there's the word we're going to get in here. Now they give you a few different objectives that you can choose. Excuse me.
Do your best. You got this.
Morgan Freeman is coming.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go with under the conversion category of lead generation. And what this means is when somebody hits the learn more button, that's where the lead gen form pops up with their information. So we're going to choose that. Couple things to start it off with is location. Where are you going to be showing this to? And so let's just say for now, we're just going to be focusing in Canada. I would say focus on people that live there permanently as more of a permanent fixture. And so let's just say, as an example, you want to reach a C-suite executive at a large corporation. Right. So I'm just going to run through a few different audience examples here to show what we can do here. Right. So under audience attributes, under job experience, we could choose job seniorities, because keep in mind, again, when people go to LinkedIn, they fill in what their position is. Right. And of course, everybody wants to brag that they're the CEO. So everybody puts that. But you can select, if you want the partner, the owner, the CXO, so anybody from the C-suite, right? VP, director, right? All those top level executives, right? So within Canada, all right, we got 2 million people here. Now, let's say we want to narrow it, because we don't just want any CEO. We want people at big companies. So we can narrow this down further. We can say, okay, under company. Now, if you knew, for example, like let's say you just wanted to target executives at Microsoft, right? Like if you know the company name and you only want to do Microsoft, you can choose, boom, I just want Microsoft.
Yep.
Right. Now there's not very many of those, but you've got 440.
Yep. Now, one of the things to keep in mind, and I know this is a question I've always thought to myself as well, is are these C-suites actually going to spend time on LinkedIn? Really? And that's where the social aspect of LinkedIn and the news and the conversation aspect has actually become interesting in the past years. You might not get as much success with this kind of targeting. You might want to start lower down the chain, depending on what it is that you're doing. This may be more of a, listen, I just really need to make sure that you know about me type campaign, and less of a lead gen type campaign, because unless you have a ridiculously compelling thing to sell. But at the same time, you can do things like target specific sizes. So maybe it's not, Microsoft size for the C-suite, but maybe you're going to be targeting, people that are CEOs or CXOs in a 100 to 150 person company. Which might be a little bit more in the thick of things.
For sure. And depending on how you want to do it, if you just want to do CEOs at, major corporations, 500 plus.
Yep.
Now we've got 450,000 people to work with. And one thing I would stress too, because I think it's important, we've had clients mention this before, is they'll bring up concerns being like, well, I don't think my target audience is on LinkedIn. And what I think is really cool here is that say if you buy a billboard, you've paid for that billboard for the whole month, right? And if the wrong people are walking by that billboard, you've still paid for it, right? But if you start running an ad on LinkedIn and just your target demographic isn't there, the audience is too small, you only pay when somebody actually sees it or clicks on it. So if nobody interacts with your ad, you don't pay.
Right.
So if you're afraid that they're not there, test it out. If they're not there, you're not going to pay very much money.
Yep. Okay. Very cool.
So there's the C-suite executives at major corporations. Let's just say, so this was I was gonna share one of our examples, because recently we were trying to find how do we reach lawyers, but not just any lawyer. We wanted to reach family lawyers.
Yep.
And where we initially got a little bit stuck, I'm just going to back up here, because if we go to job experience and job titles, you can search for a lawyer.
That's easy.
That's easy, but there is no family lawyer option, right? So we can say, okay, we want not just a law clerk, but we want a lawyer.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. Lawyers, 53,000 lawyers in Canada, but we don't just want any lawyer. We want a family lawyer.
How do we do that?
How do we do it? And so this is where LinkedIn offers a lot of different targeting options and strategies. So there can be a lot of different ways to reach the same goal. So within lawyers, what we can do is narrow further, go interest and trades, and we can go to groups, right? So, and this is something specific to LinkedIn that Facebook does not let you do. LinkedIn lets you advertise to people that are in specific groups. Facebook does not have that option, at least not yet, which I find kind of surprising, if I'm being honest.
I am a little bit surprised by that too. I guess maybe when you go to interest within Facebook, maybe they use groups as an indication of interest, but it's more behind the scenes, not telling you that you can actually target specific groups.
Right. I'm sure that might be one of the signals, perhaps one of the factors.
Yeah.
But if you knew this group is specifically who I want to target, it seems kind of like a missed opportunity that you can't do that. And I'd be really curious to know why. But on LinkedIn, you can. So if you were to target, see, these are different groups related to family law. So we could go through and we could select a whole bunch of these. And now, I hit an error. Audience is too small. So we'd have to go through and add a number of these to get a large enough
Now, the beauty of it is if people are part of groups, that means they're more likely to be active on LinkedIn, because that is an active thing that you do in a group. You're actually communicating with fellow people that are have the same interests as you.
Okay, so within Canada, that's a smaller audience, but if you're open to working internationally, could add in the US, can add in the UK, can add in other countries, and now you see you start to find enough people here.
Okay, awesome, great.
And last example that I want to show, because I know we work with a lot of people that try to connect with like the solopreneurs, the coaches, the speakers, the authors, and so I thought it'd be cool here to show, how can you reach that solopreneur CEO? And what I was going to do is let's X this out, remove that. So similar to what we did actually with the first example, but now if you go and you look for job experience, not job title, but job seniority, right? Let's just say we want CEOs, just CEOs, but we're going to narrow that down to, we only want to see companies with a company size. Let's say we just want, there we go, right? So now we've got 6,000 people within Canada that their job description is a CEO, but they work for just a solo business of one.
Right. So now when you're doing a lead gen campaign, the important thing to remember with this is if you're targeting this audience, you need to have something for this audience. It's not, hey, I want to generate, fill out this form because I think I want to sell you something. It needs to be a white paper, a webinar that you're running. This is a great thing to actually have an event that you're doing. and it can convert to signups to that event. Something that you're giving the person that's of value to that person that you're targeting. That's a big part of a lead gen campaign. You actually have some sort of, I guess the technical term or the marketing term is lead magnet.
Especially if it's a new relationship.
100%. If you're using LinkedIn advertising to sort of get general awareness and show thought leadership and other stuff like that, you can do something different than a lead gen campaign. This is specifically for a lead gen campaign.
Bingo. And so those are some of the options around setting up your audiences and your targeting. Obviously, there's a lot more that we can't cover all of today. But once you've got that together, then the next step to actually getting your lead gen campaign up and running is to decide, okay, is it going to be a photo campaign? Is it going to be a video campaign? Those are the two that we use the most. Getting that creative, writing the copy, and then creating that lead gen form that people fill out or it auto-populates, and get that running. But I feel like the choosing the right audience is really one of the main decisions in this whole process.
Well, that's the whole point. If you're actually figuring out, do I want to do a Facebook lead gen? You have to see, is my audience there? And if you can figure out that targeted job title, interests, then narrow it down to some interest based on like the the lead gen groups, then you're doing really, really well. As far as identifying that LinkedIn might be the route that you want to go. So like, again, it's super hyper targeting. I love it. All right. Any last words?
I think it's time to wrap it up.
Okie dokie. So LinkedIn lead gen, obviously if it's B2B, think about it. If you're B2B and your client is also B2B, really think about it. If you're talking about a larger sale or a larger engagement, then think about it. If you are saying, I want to target a specific job title, LinkedIn has that much better than Facebook. I'd also say if you want to support other LinkedIn campaigns. So the other day we were talking about a LinkedIn outreach campaign. You could also now target the same group that you're doing for one-on-one outreach with, you could do, oh, hello there. No, thanks. We do not want our windows done right now, just so you know. If you are doing a LinkedIn outreach campaign, sorry, I'm catching my thoughts. If you're doing a LinkedIn outreach campaign, then you might also want, what's a good give that I could give to these targets and get your ads in front of those same similar demographic of people that you're doing the outreach for, so that there's an additional touch point to support. Okay, here, get this white paper, get this, whatever your thought leadership bit that you're going to give a sign up for this webinar, that type of thing. The other thing I would say, and we didn't really talk about it, is look at this from a timeliness perspective. What's going down right now or coming up soon that would have a person be more interested in whatever it is that you're offering? So if there's anything that we've seen recently, is the timing of what you're doing really shifts things dramatically. So it could be on a quarterly basis. Maybe there is a quarter end, right? Because most people do their year ends, not necessarily always December 31st in a business, but they might do it on a different quarter. Usually it's not on an odd month. Sometimes it can be, but on a different quarter. So you might want to look on a quarterly, either end of quarter or beginning of quarter. End of quarter, maybe people are too busy. Beginning of quarter, maybe they're starting to think strategy for the what's going on. So look at it and measure as far as timing goes and how you might approach these things. That's it. Okay, so
hold up. We got an important question from Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to have a business account on LinkedIn?
Yes, if you want to be doing this stuff, you do have to have a business account.
Yeah, so that'd be a business page.
It would be a business page, and from that business page, I don't know if you need a business page to have an ad account, but you definitely need to have an ad account.
Well, you need a business page to run the ads.
You do. Okay, there's the answer. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Patricia, for your questions. All right, let's go into the outro.
You've tuned in to COVID Marketing with Brent Kobayashi and Arthur Tutt, the show to support small business not just to survive, but to thrive.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That was LinkedIn lead gen forms, why you might want to be doing that kind of stuff. So on tomorrow's episode, I'm going to be on vacation. Arthur's going to be resting his throat. His throat is going to be on vacation. So we are going to be rebroadcasting one of our most watched local SEO episodes, leveraging online directories. It will still be coming to you at 11:11 Eastern Standard Time. So if you want the scoop on how to up your ranking with minimal time investment, make sure you check it out. Super important. I have to say one thing. We rebroadcasted an episode on Tuesday. I don't know if it was quite clear that we did. And we got, good comments and chatter and all that kind of stuff. And Arthur, you know how I felt?
Terrible.
No, I felt good. Like I kind of felt like, oh my, maybe they don't realize it's a rebroadcast. So I kind of felt, it was meant to be in the titles, but the titling got kind of messed up. But I actually felt, and I kid you not, this is the exact feeling that I get a chuckle out of it myself. I felt a little bit like a rock star. Because it's just like, when I looked at it, it's just like, oh, wow. It's like listening, your song's playing on the radio and I just got this feeling of I'm making money and I'm not doing that thing. It was kind of cool. I don't know.
It's like people talk about, making money while you sleep.
Something like that. It was really, really interesting. And it's not to say, of course, we have videos on YouTube, and they're getting some views, and they're doing something. But for some reason, when there was the actual interaction, some great questions were asked. So you and I went in there and we answered the questions and the comments a little bit later, and we'll have those questions again on a future episode about local SEO, because it was a local SEO rebroadcast. But I was just like, wow, this is really powerful. I don't know. It was a really interesting feeling to have. I liked it. So anyways, we'll see what happens tomorrow. It was, yeah, I don't know. All right. That's it.
That's got it.
Thanks for joining us.